Pleasure to have you here.
Kore is the Member of Parliament for Mandera South.
The decision that the
President and the Cabinet in terms of lifting the GMO food, it will impact it.
Fund, which was recently launched.
What Fund is doing is giving. Now we want a solution.
Hello everyone, good evening and welcome to an exclusive interview, part of the series of interview we are doing in STN television, the part of Hoganka or STN. We normally invite MPs from Northeastern and part of Somali regions and also discuss Somali-related matters and also issues that mostly people complain about it. And today, my guest is the Mandera South MP, Abdulwahab Ibarahim Haro, a man who is known. Haro is the name that most people know. Thank you so much, Mr. Haro. Welcome to STN Television. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm also happy to be here.
We also thank for your time. Thank you. Mr. Haro, welcome. Can you briefly tell our audience who is Haro?
Abdulwahab Ibrahim Haro, popularly known as Mheshimiwa Kore, is the Member of Parliament for Mandera South. And before I became the Member of Parliament for Mandera South, for the last 20 years, I've been working with an international NGO called Danish Refugee Council. So I've been in the international NGO world, working on humanitarian interventions, assisting people in peripheral areas and areas which are fragile, areas which are hard to reach, and particularly displaced people, whether they are internally displaced persons or refugees. So I have long experience of 20 years working with international NGOs, and it is this type of work which have been close to the people and community on the ground, which has motivated me to join politics, because sometimes you come face to face with the suffering of the people in the field, on the ground, and then you get frustrated that nobody is doing anything about those problems.
Okay.
Then you feel like perhaps if you are in the position of becoming a policymaker, you will do something about it. So that's Abdulwahab Haro. I was born and brought up in Elwak, Kenya, in Mandera County, and I have worked in that part of the world also for quite a number of years now.
Okay, I think that's a brief, and maybe our audience understand well who is the guest today. Thank you. Today, there is a Jamhuri Day celebration countrywide. Let's look at this. What does this event mean to Kenyans?
This event is a very important event to Kenyans. As you know, Kenya had a very long history of struggle with colonial government.
Okay.
And on 1st June 1963, Kenya attained independence from Britain. And 1.5 years later, that is 18 months later, Kenya became a republic. It joined the Commonwealth on 12th of December 1964. So every day, 12th of December, we celebrate Jamhuri Day. Jamhuri is a Kiswahili word meaning the republic. So that is the day Kenya became a republic. And this day, Kenyans from all walks of life, in all the counties in the republic, and even those who live in the diaspora, remember the struggle for independence and remember how Kenyans actually united in fighting for freedom, and how freedom is very valuable, and we remember those freedom fighters, our heroes, like the founding father of this nation, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, and all those others, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Kongo Karomba, Bildad Kagia. There's so many, all those freedom fighters who fought for independence in this country. And if you contextualize the same fight to our counties, we also have heroes in our own counties. For example, in Mandera County, we have people we also celebrate who stood up to colonialists and fought for independence. So that day is important to us in that sense.
Okay, let's look. There's a slight difference this day compared to previous Jamhuri Day celebrations, because this day mark a special focus on technology and innovation, as the President William Samoei Ruto said. Unlike previous, where Kenyans converge for political speeches, what does also this mean for Kenyans?
I think it's more than half a century now since Kenya became independent, and there are so many things that have happened. Kenya has advanced a lot in economy. Kenya has advanced a lot in education. Kenya has advanced a lot in many fields, and now the technology age, which is actually the age where majority of our citizens who are in the youth cohorts are actually identified with, is a field or an industry which can do a lot for the world and for Kenya in terms of innovations in communication, and in terms of innovations in making the world a global village in the real sense. So this Jamhuri Day is different because our Jamhuri Day, our Jamhuri Day today is themed on technology, and it's in the fact that the president and the government of Kenya realizes the fact that technology can actually be used to leverage so much for our youth. It can be an industry which can create jobs for a lot of our youths. You can do business with people all over the world from the comfort of your bedroom, or from the comfort of your sitting room. And that is how technology is important, and technology can also be used for advancement in agriculture, for advancement in medicine, for advancement in many other fields that we need in our lives. So this Jamhuri Day today is different because we have moved away from, as you put it correctly, from the usual political speeches that usually happen during this day, and this also gives you the realization that actually we have a president now who is different from the presidents we've had in the past. A young president, a very innovative president, a professional president who's also a PhD holder, who understands the value of technology, the value of development as a nation, and the difference is clear from what President William Samoei Ruto is currently, and from what the past presidents we've had in the past. So this is why our Jamhuri Day is different. You've seen even in his address, he has addressed issues of quite pertinent to the people who are at the lower part of the pyramid in this society. You know, he has talked about the Hustler Fund. Already, I think there are quite billions of Kenyans, millions of Kenyans have already borrowed money, and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mheshimiwa. Let's look on the administration of William Samoei Ruto. It's now 100+ days in office. And there was a lot of trials it was doing throughout all these 100 days. Let us now look on GMOs. The president have lifted a ban of 10 years, which was on GMOs, just to brought into focus on the food security. And we know that the country have been facing a prolonged drought throughout those periods. What do you think about the decision that the president did lifted the ban on GMO?
I think the decision the president made and the cabinet in terms of lifting the ban on GMO is a very good decision for this country. It is a decision which was timely. It's a decision which is most welcome. This is because Kenya has now joined about, I think, 3 countries in Africa which have now approved the use of GMO, and it's among the 70 countries in the world which is now using the GMO. And if you look at the decision that the president made together with the cabinet, it's a decision which did not just drop from the air. It's a decision which was informed by trends of events in this country. We have seen the impact of climate change on our regions. We have seen the lengthening of drought. We have seen the increasing of temperatures, and we have seen pests which never used to appear in this country, destroying crops in agricultural areas. We have seen weeds which never used to bother our crops in some areas appear as a result of this climate change and the impact it has brought about. And then we have seen a serious food shortage crisis in this country. And we have seen Africa, Kenya, just being part of Africa, we've seen Africa relying more and more on food imports from countries outside Africa. And this has actually had an impact on our economy. It has had an impact on the food security situation of our people. And therefore, there was there was a need for the country to come with a solution to this food crisis. And therefore, the cabinet and the president sat and they decided to lift the ban on GMO, which is 10 years old, as you said. And this is because we need more food production in this country. GMO, unlike what many people are touting around, GMO, you see, when you talk of GMO, I have an agriculture background myself. Okay. In my first degree, I trained in Bachelor of Science Agriculture. Okay. And I know, I have studied the genetics and food production and what have you. When you talk of GMO, particularly in food production, you're looking at a particular parameter. For example, if it's a seed, you look at a certain parameter of that seed. If that seed has a problem with rain and it requires a lot of water to grow, then it is genetically modified so that it can be a drought-resistant seed, so that you can even grow it during periods of drought. If it is a seed which gives you very little yield, so it is genetically modified so that you can have more yield. It has got nothing to do with cancer. It has got nothing to do with health problems that people face. It has got to do with how do we improve on the character of this seed, so that either we improve the yield, or we improve its resistance to water, to drought, or we improve its resistance to pest, or even resistance to weed. So the lifting of the ban for GMO will solve our problem for food security, and it will also solve our problem for environmental degradation, because it will help us conserve our environment in a way. And you will hear in some parts of this country many people saying, well, we are producing enough food, why do we import food? And the answer is, we've been suffering for the last 3 years. You know, we've had 6 successive droughts from 2020. Up to now, we have had 6 successive drought periods. And we have had food shortages, particularly in northern parts of this country where I come from. And this food that we're being told now is available in plenty, it was not there. We have been asking for food to get to our people, and we are told there is no food. Farmers have not produced. Now, we want a solution that will not make our people suffer anymore for drought. We want to use technology so that technology can solve the problems of our people. And one of the technologies is the biotechnology for improving seeds and biofoods. If biotechnology is good for example, producing insulin, which treats people who have sugar problems, it is also good for producing food.
Okay, so how will it have impact on production and farmers? We know the last time the Minister of Trade saying that the government is trying to import more than 10,000 tons of maize. How will it affect the production of the country and also the farmers? Of
course, the GMO food, it will impact in a big way, especially for those poor households in regions which do not produce crops. It will mean if we have more food in the market, the food prices will go down. Maize prices will go down, and all the other food that are produced using the GMO technology will have plenty of food in the country, and therefore it means it will be more food in the it will be cheaper food in the markets and more food to our people. But it might not be very good news for farmers who've been producing maize, because they will not be getting as higher prices as they have been getting in the past. But that is a problem that can easily be solved by the government, because the government can take care of those farmers who are producing their food so that they don't make losses when it comes to the cost of production. But then it will not stop the government from importing more food or from genetically producing more food to serve those people who would not be reached by this food. Because I think we consume about, is it 30 million tons of maize, for example, every year in this country. Mm-hmm. And the government has only imported 10 million tons. Okay. And we are told in the country from the rainy season and from the production we are expecting the yield of about 20 million tons or 25, so around there. So even if we say we will not import food, we'll still have shortage for maize, for example, and therefore there is need for government to import that maize in the short term so that we can continue feeding our people who will face the shortfall, and then in the long term, the GMO technology can take on and start producing food for our people.
Okay, Azimio leader Raila Amolo Odinga and other Azimio allied MPs have strongly opposed the decision of the president, saying that GMOs will have a health effect on Kenyans.
I think the Azimio leader, if you look some few years back, you'll realize he is also a very strong proponent for GMO some time back when the shoe was on the other foot. But now that the shoe has gone on the other foot, definitely the Azimio leader is a leader we respect. Raila Odinga, we respect him. He's a leader in this country. But I think what he's saying, that the GMO affects the health, the GMO food will affect the health of the people, cannot be scientifically supported. We have not seen studies, factual studies, scientific studies that will tell us, GMO, for example, causes cancer or it causes health problems for our people. This idea of Kenyans becoming suspicious, we always say we are doing very little in science and research. But when our scientists and researchers come up with a solution, we then again become also suspicious of that solution. So we need to give science a chance. We need to give technology a chance. And if there is any study, factual study that proves to us that GMO has a problem, then they should bring it on the table. But in the absence of that, all of the other rest, all the other rest will consider it as politics, and I think politics of hunger is a bad politics.
Okay, one of the major manifesto and plan of the current administration, led by President William Samoei Ruto, was the Hustler Fund, which was recently launched. What do you think Hustler Fund will change, or youth employment and or the current situation Kenyans are having?
I think the Hustler Fund is another very good idea, because majority of Kenyans today are at the lowest level of the pyramid, and this country has not recovered fully, even from the COVID-19 impact a few months ago. And that impact is still with us. If you come from a region where I come from, northeastern Kenya, the drought that I've told you has become cyclic, has been with us for the last 3 years. There's a lot of problems. What do we call it? The money circulation is little, businesses have closed. There's a lot of suffering in the country as far as getting an income and trying to survive is concerned. So what the Hustler Fund is doing is giving those people at the lower level of the pyramid an opportunity to borrow from a fund that the government has established, and be able to do business with that money and save that money, because that money is not money for marrying a second wife or buying an extra cow for if you buy an extra cow for selling, yes, it's for business per se, okay, to speak. The concept is about lending money to people at the lower level of the pyramid. Of course, there will be different categories of how much so-and-so can borrow and for what, depending on what they want to do. The Hustler Fund is available to them, and right now, even the president spoke today, almost 7 billion shillings have already been borrowed by Kenyans, and 1.2 billion have already been repaid. And Kenyans have saved 400 million shillings from the Hustler Funds. Those who have borrowed have already saved 400 million Kenya shillings. So the idea is to encourage those people at the lower level of the pyramid, the mamambogas, the kinyozis, the taxi drivers, the motorcycle riders, to borrow the money, the youth and women who are doing medium and short enterprise funds and small enterprise funds, to borrow that money, invest in the little business they do, and save whatever the profits they get from that business, and grow that way until we develop that culture the president has been encouraging of saving, and that culture of doing business.
And we are seeing a lot of people taking that money Hustler Fund. Okay, Mr. Haro, thank you so much. Now, you are an MP.
Yes.
From Mandera South. I think first time MP.
Yes.
We know Mandera South is a border region with Somalia. We know there's also livestock clashes. On security matters, what do you have as a plan? And so far, what have you been successful for you?
Thank you very much. Mandera South is a very unique constituency. It's a constituency which is bordering Somalia. It's got a long border with Somalia. It also borders Wajir to the south. It also borders, well, Ethiopia is a bit far away, but through Mandera West, it also closer to you can travel to Ethiopia, for example, from Mandera South, from Merwak and what have you. So it is a constituency which has about 260,000 people, the population of that constituency. And it's a constituency which is actually two constituencies in one, because we have two sub-counties. In most parts of this country, each sub-county is almost equivalent to a constituency. But Mandera South has two sub-counties, the Kotulo sub-county and what we call the Mandera Central sub-county. And both sub-counties are just part of one constituency. So it's large in terms of land size. It's, and the economic backbone of that constituency is livestock. Right now, as we face drought for the last 6 seasons, as I've told you, there has been a lot of struggle by pastoralists. You know, a power pastoralist in that part of the world, when the animals are doing well, the rains are okay, the animals are doing well, he can sell his goat to pay school fees, he can sell his goat to pay transport fare to Nairobi, he can pay his goat to beat medical bill. But when there's no goat to sell, it becomes a problem. So the biggest problem people have is livestock production now, because of the drought and climate change issues. And what is within my plan as a legislator, actually I have a bill, a private member's bill in Parliament on livestock insurance. The idea is to encourage our people to insure their livestock during good periods. And when these livestock die, just like the way when you crash your car, you can claim for a replacement from the insurance. If an animal dies, then you can also ask for the insurance to repay your animal when the rains have come, so that you don't knock out this poor pastoralist off the livelihood zone completely. It gives him a chance of recouping back and regenerating their livelihood, because livestock is the main livelihood. Farming, you will need a lot of expenses to do crop farming, but we're still encouraging our people. That is a very fertile land. If we explore water and we use technology, cheap technology like solar, to pump that water to farms, then we can also do some kind of irrigation agriculture in future. So food security is a major issue which we're going to deal with, and that one is centered around livestock and what have you. The other second thing, I think Mandera South has the largest youth cohort at 16 years and below in the country, if I'm not wrong. It is a bulging youth population, and most of those youth today are educated. They have gone to colleges, some have diplomas, some have certificates, some have degrees, but job opportunities are not there. Okay. So you can imagine living on a difficult border like the border with Somalia. You have a bulging youth population which is educated, and which does not have an opportunity of employment. And then there is people across the border, the bad guys in quotes, those people we normally call the bad guys, who will lure these youths to come and join extremism and join them in fights and what have you. It becomes a powder keg. So it's like a ticking time bomb for that region. So how to empower those youths? Perhaps using the Hustler Fund, using the Wezo Fund, and using the Constituency Development Fund, whatever we can use from the government funds to help support these youths, empower them, so that those who can start business in garages, those who can be trained in technical colleges so that they can acquire skills like electricity skills, mechanical skills, driving skills, or even computer skills, we will be able to do that. Coming to the question of security you had talked about, I agree with you. We have had, in that part of the world, there are quite a number of things combined. Drought and climate change have resulted to scarcity of resources. Like, for example, the pastoralists who graze. We've had frequent conflicts between pastoralists during drought period. Animals from one community crossing to the side of the other community, and then because the grazing is not enough, jittery begins and people start fighting. But in the recent past, alhamdulillah, we've been having very peaceful neighbors. We've been having people, even if there are skirmishes between our borders with our communities living in that area, people have been able to sit down and resolve the problems they've been having. So far, we have alhamdulillah, very good relations between our communities. But you know, frustration leads to aggression. If there is no pasture, there is no food for livestock, and people are forced to move from far areas. Disputes about border, you know, this is a grazing border of mine, this is mine, that is mine. These skirmishes will keep on coming up, and of course, the other bigger problem of border insecurity as a result of, you know, violent extremism and people along that border who've been crossing and planting IEDs, causing problems along the way. I think those are issues which are real in that area, and one of the way we'll definitely deal with this problem is, one, how do we build the trust, for example, between the local communities and the security agencies, so that security becomes a concern of everybody. It doesn't become a concern of only security agencies. Nobody has found peace using guns. There has to be other ways of trying to, you know, sure. Making sure we maintain peace of our people and good neighborly relations with people across the border. There's a lot of trade going on, for example, between the two LWACs, LWAC Somalia and LWAC Kenya. How do we make sure that trade is sustained so that we have continued cohesion, continued business relations? I can tell you for a fact, 60% of the food eaten in LWAC or supplies we get in LWAC come from LWAC Somalia. So it means in return a lot of money flows from LWAC Kenya towards LWAC Somalia. So it's a mutual relationship, which I think doesn't need to be discouraged. It needs to be, if there is any security issue along that area, we need to. It's the same when you are at the Mandera town, Bulahawa and Mandera, Suftu, and Dolo on the Ethiopian side. I think the relationships that exist in terms of business, trade, the relationship that exists in terms of education. We have a lot of students from Somalia who cross the border at Bulahawa, for example, every morning to come and study in schools in LWAC and Mandera referral hospitals are a bit better in terms of facilities and equipments and personnel than some of the hospitals we have across the border. So a lot of our people from both sides of the border also use the same facilities. When it comes to trade, I can say for a fact that most people from Somalia come to Mandera airstrip to travel to Nairobi, and you know, so these relationships needs to be nurtured in a positive way, and then when there are any problems that are hindering these relationships, then we have to deal with it as a society, as a community, and as governments from both sides of the divide.
Okay, okay. Another essential, actually, thing is education that I hope you are focusing on. You have an agenda and plan for. As you say, there's a lot of youth in Mandera South constituency. Some of them educated with low job opportunities. What plan do you have for education?
I think education in Mandera and also in Northeastern generally, and maybe by extension Northern Kenya generally, is really in bad shape. Recently, because of incidences of insecurity that happened in parts of Northeastern, the last few years, the Teacher Service Commission, which is the employer for teachers in this country, has withdrawn thousands of teachers from Northeastern on insecurity grounds. So we have a very big gap of teachers that are supposed to teach in our schools in Northeastern. And I have been to some schools in my constituency, a place called Charifuda, for example. There is a school of about 300 children with only 2 teachers, the head teacher and the deputy head teacher. So you wonder, how are these teachers going to teach? So it means majority of these students will be told to go and study on their own at home, and the difficulties that are at home, no electricity, perhaps there's no even a desk to sit on and study. Maybe they're supposed to do some household chores for the family. So the dream of universal education for all is a pipe dream in Northeastern. It is really going to suffer unless we change things, and we must change things. And one of the things we must change is how the recruitment of teachers and the deployment of teachers is done in this country. And this is a debate. We have had a discussion with a group of MPs, a caucus called Pastoralist Parliamentary Group, which is a 101 member caucus, a very strong caucus. It's a third of the National Assembly in Kenya. So if that caucus, decides to act on something and in uniform, definitely something. And so education is one of the things that we're going to really look at. So one of the problems we really need to change in education in that area is to make sure we have more youth from Northeastern trained in teacher colleges. We have to encourage them because our colleagues from the other parts of the country, for insecurity reasons, they have developed cold feet, and most of them have been moved out of that region by their employer. And those who are remaining have also an opportunity now to move away through what we call delocalization policy, which was passed in Parliament just the other day. So most of the teachers who have remained in Northeastern, who are not coming from Northeastern region, they are going to use a provision in that policy of delocalization to move back to their home counties, which means we are going to have even more gap in that. So we need to come up with a solution in terms of training most of our youth joining the. And if there is a problem in the admission criteria, then we'll address it as MPs in the National Assembly to make sure we change some of those criteria that are used to employ teachers, so that we can have more teachers in. The other thing is the question of bursary. Very many poor students, parents, and especially now that the parents have suffered drought, we'll see a lot of them drop out because of lack of school fees. So I'm happy to report, alhamdulillah, our county government in Mandera, for example, is working on a policy where all secondary school students will receive fees from the county government, and secondary education will be free in Mandera from January next year. That is the policy of the county government of Mandera.
Wow, that's a good news.
Yeah, so we'll use other funds, like for example, the MP has what we call the Constituency Development Fund. The bursary we have under the Constituency Development Fund, instead of now giving it to secondary schools, now that the secondary schools will be sorted out by the Mandera County government, we will use that money now to educate our youths in colleges and in universities, so that we have enough youth who actually qualify in some of these courses that we require in our
That's a good news, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you.
Let's also talk about water crisis,
Yes.
which largely affect Northeastern and some other parts of the country during this prolonged drought, which is affecting many parts of the country. I hope even your constituency do have, as the people from there are livestock and keepers. So what plan do you have, and how so far did you approach to this circumstance?
Yeah, the water crisis is big. As I told you, because of the prolonged drought, the water table has gone down. And when there is no rain for quite a long period, even the boreholes, which we already have, cannot be recharged. So even the boreholes are drying in some of the areas. The water table has gone down. So I have seen people exploring for water in many parts of the counties in Northeastern. And the hydrological survey, the water table is very low below. Even in areas where a few years ago it was higher, now you go, you find it's very low. So the solution that we are discussing, of course, water is a devolved function of the county government, and county government has resources for drilling boreholes, for doing water pans. We are discussing with the county government to be able to explore for more water in areas which have not been covered. And I'm happy to say our county governments, particularly where I come from in Mandera, have really tried in terms of water resource development. There are a lot of boreholes which have been drilled since the devolution. In their hundreds, lots of boreholes have been done, a lot of water pans have been done, but of course water pans will just remain water pans if there is no rain. It will just remain dry. And what we are now encouraging the county governments to do is to even go further and try and solarize some of the boreholes so that we don't incur a lot of diesel during droughts like this. People don't have money even to pay for the diesel to run those diesel engines. So a lot of solarization and use of technology to make sure we discover more water. We are also talking to friends, donors, and embassies and NGOs and other development actors to come in and support the water sector in terms of water development. In my constituency, for example, together with the county government, we managed to, there's Wargadud Center, which is a big center after Elwak. It had a problem with the genset. You see, the population increases every day, and the water resources remains the same. So there is a lot of pressure on the little water that is there. So we have done something in Wargadud, we have done something in Bohol 11, we have done something in a place called Adayumur, where there was a breakdown. So during this drought, a lot of repairs are being done, which come as a result of our usage. Machines, diesel engines run for 24/7, and they break a lot during this period.
Meanwhile, there's also an issue of electricity and water supply. The other day I was seeing Mandera County Senator talking about the issue. I think even this is an issue there, and you have plans for it.
Yes. Electricity basically is a major issue. You see, the Kenya today is a Kenya which has advanced in technology. A lot of things are done online. Even job opportunities which come up in parts of the national government are done online. Even tenders for doing some contracts, if you're a businessman nowadays, are done online. Even university students, for you to join university, you apply through the central placement unit called COOPS, and then you do it online. So if you are in a rural village, for example, in Kobadadi, in Shimberfatuma, or Dololo, where there is no electricity, that youth in that part of the world will never take advantage of that opportunity, because they cannot apply online, they cannot even see that opportunity. There's no electricity, they cannot use their phones, there's no internet. So electricity is a major thing, so that we can have internet, we can have connectivity, we can have light. Also a lot of businesses, like for example in a big center like Elwak town, a lot of women do cold water storage and sell water and juices and soda which they manufacture in their homes to travelers who travel on buses along that road, or to businessmen who come to that to sell their livestock and what have you. So when the electricity is not there, those women are also basically knocked out of business. So electricity is a major issue. We are having a discussion with the Kenya Power and Lighting Company to make sure we sort out the problem of electricity in that part of the world. We are also talking to Rural Electrification Authority so that we can have solar electrification in some of the parts where the off-grid system has not reached, or where the diesel engine has not been able to supply power. So I agree, electricity is like a basic necessity now for the people in that region, because of the reasons I've mentioned. Even studying for students in schools, even when it comes to security, schools which are dark at night, and in that
especially
part of the
boarding
world.
schools.
Exactly. So it's a major issue, and the more we solve that problem, the better for everybody in that part of the world.
We just came to the end of the interview. What are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks is I wish all Kenyans a very happy Jamhuri Day.
Okay.
I think we've had a very tough elections recently. Our government has been sworn in. It's just 4 months now since the government has been sworn in. Even MPs, they're just 4 months old since they've been sworn in. We know the challenges our people have. We ask for patience. Things will be better early next year. And I wish all Kenyans, wherever they are, a very happy Jamhuri Day, especially those people from my constituencies who are going through a very difficult drought period. I'm told there's some little rain which has fallen elsewhere. Be patient with your neighbor. Where there is some little water and grass, please be magnanimous. Let us share. Let us not fight over the scarce resources during this time, because everybody is suffering. But I can tell you, however long the night is, there is always a daybreak. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That was Abdulwahab Ibarahim Haro, Mandera South Constituency MP, who was our guest today. Thank you so much for your time, sir. And
Thank
that's
you.
all for today. We'll meet another time. Thank you.